The following is a summary of how I perceive to be the changes that have occurred to the Liberties as I know it, going back to the early 19th century to the modern day, in the form of a picture scenario which takes into account the 1916 Rising and touches on the poverty that the people had to go through in the tenement areas of Dublin, including the effect that religion had on the people in the area. For example, there are approximately 4 well-known churches in the space of less than a square mile: Patrick's Cathedral, Christchurch Cathedral, St Audine's and finally St Catherine's. My first memory takes me back to a time when, as a child, my mum would take me shopping to the market stalls in Mead Street on a Saturday morning, looking for bargains, as my mum had been widowed from when I was approximately 6 years old and we didn't have a whole lot of money to spend at that time. What we have in the picture here now down below is to the left the tenement housing that would have been common in and around Cork Street, RD Street and the likes of Pimlico, Wine Tavern Street. Into the centre then what we have is a view up St Patrick's Cathedral, showing the old ivy buildings which were constructed by the Guinness family to house the employees of the Guinness factory up on James's Gate. You would also be familiar with the term of the ivy baths, which was also a part of the same complex. To the right there, what we have looking out from the west is a picture of St Patrick's Cathedral there, taken from the view across Bull Alley, which is adjacent to Liberty College. Above we can see a couple of images of the old Ivy Market, which is no longer trading. At one time it used to house the original fish markets and vegetable markets. These are now located in an area in Dublin called Smithfield. Adjacent to the Ivy Market stood Mother Redcap's public house, with the adjoining buildings converted to a modern day freestyle market. If one takes a walk in the direction of Thomas Street and Mead Street, you will come across a series of street traders and a number of markets. Most notably famous in these days, or in today's times, would be the Liberty Market. Below we have a picture taken from the Jacobs buildings. It's a section of the 1916 Rising and the effects it had on the people of the Liberties and the surrounding areas and their involvement in the Civil War at that time. Below again we have a picture of the old city wall, which is still visible there today, just off of Christchurch Square there. But then again, I suppose over the years people would be familiar with an old expression called outside the pale. This was considered to be primarily directed at the Liberties, whereby the Liberties was considered to be, because of the poverty and the slums and the tenements, it was considered to be outside the city wall, hence the expression outside the pale. Once again below we have another section of the Ivy buildings there, off of Bull Alley, again adjacent to the Liberty College. Below we can see a map indicating the footprint of the Liberties as we know it there today, going back from James's Gate to High Street to Patrick Street and in and around the Dolphins Barn Rialto areas there. Within that then you'd have the likes of Pimlico, Maryland, Mead Street, Thomas Street, Oliver Bond. This made up what we know as today the Liberties. Below we can see a number of images of Christchurch Cathedral by day and by night. This is of huge tourist interest. Below on the left we see the original Coombe Hospital before it was destroyed. To the centre we can see what is left of the entrance to date, and to the right the new Coombe Maternity Hospital, or the Coombe Women's Lying In Hospital as we know it there today. Below what we see is what's left of the old city wall. This was circled and was known as the city of which the Liberties was excluded due to the poverty that existed outside of the city wall or outside of the pale. Today we see street traders at work on Thomas Street, which is a familiar sight from Thursday to Sunday. What we see there below there is various images going back to the early 19th century and to date there, which shows Guinness Brewery, which gave employment to the people of the area and also housed them in the purpose-built ivy buildings which we mentioned earlier. The Great Lockout of 1913 would best be remembered for Big Jim Larkin's speech. So below what we have are a couple of images of the 1913 lockout, which shows the violence and the poverty incurred by the working classes of that period. Also the great speech given by Jim Larkin to rally the people to fight for their rights. Finally, we can see the Free State Army outside the ITGWU headquarters.